In this Tinkercad activity, we're going to create a custom keychain. The first thing I'm going to do when I get into Tinkercad is create a new blank project, and I'm going to come up here and change the name of it. Tinkercad gives them funky names, so I'm just going to click and we're going to name it Your Name and then Keychain, so that when we download these and turn them in, I'll know which model belongs to which student. Now I'm going to create the base of my keychain. For this project, you have some choice. The only rule is that it must be a flat shape. And by that, I mean something like a box or a cylinder that has a flat top area, not something like a sphere, a roof, or a cone, which does not have that flat top. If you scroll through, you can see there are several shapes with a flat top. The polygon is one, the heart is one, the yellow star is another one, and potentially even the diamond shape over here. I'm going to go with the polygon for mine, and I'm going to drag it over onto my work plane. My next step is to adjust the size. I'm going to start with my height because I don't want it this tall. I'm going to click on the square at the top and change that number to 4 millimeters. We don't want our keychain fatter than 4 millimeters because we want it to be able to be printed in a reasonable amount of time. The next step is adjusting the height and width. Now for this one, we can have a little bit of wiggle room. You may choose your size provided it is no larger on either side than 75 millimeters. I want mine to be equal in length and width here, so I'm going to make both numbers 75. But if you're doing a different type of keychain, maybe a rectangle or an oval shape, those numbers might be different. That's fine as long as neither side is more than 75 millimeters. Once I have my base shape, I need to add a hole for the keychain part. I'm going to go back to the top here of my shapes, and I want the whole cylinder. That's this cylinder up here with the gray stripes, not the solid orange one. I'm going to drag my cylinder over to the work plane, and I'm going to adjust the length and width of it. So I'm going to come to this corner square, and we're going to make this a 4 millimeter hole. So the number 4 for both boxes, and that's going to give us our hole shape. I'm now going to drag it onto my shape and put it wherever I want the hole to be. It helps to rotate around a little bit so you can see where it is and adjust it. We want to make sure that it's close enough to an edge that we can attach it as a keychain, but not so close that it's going to snap off and be too tiny. So I'm just going to use my arrow keys on my keyboard to adjust this a little bit until I get it where I want it to be. The next step is to group both of these shapes together. So I'm going to drag my mouse into a box over both shapes. That selects both, and I'm going to click my group button right up here. That combines those two, and now I have my hole right up here at the top of my keychain. Now we get to the fun part, which is decorating your keychain. I'm going to come down a little bit, and I'm going to find text. And I'm going to drag text onto my keychain. Once I have it, I'm going to look on my little shape menu right here, and this first box here says text. I'm going to click in that, erase text, and put my name. You can do your first name, you can do an initial, you can do your last name, whatever works for you, but we want your name on it somewhere. Once I've done that, I'm going to adjust the size so it fits on my keychain. I don't need a specific size. I just want to make sure it's not going to overlap. And again, I'm going to rotate around and make sure that everything looks okay. This is a little bit tall, so I want to adjust the height of these letters. So I'm going to come to my little top square here. And our letters, we're going to make 5.5 millimeters. That's 5.5. That will make them just tall enough to stick out over the top, but not so tall that it takes up extra time printing. So now I have my name on it. If you want, you can go in and add some more decorations to it. You can use any of the shapes, but there are a few key things to remember. You want to make sure that your shapes will fit on your keychain, and you also want to make sure that they are touching or embedded a little. We don't want any shapes floating above. So, for example, if I grab this star shape and drag this over, I can see that my star is kind of sunk down into my keychain, which is okay, but I don't want it sunk that far down. If I'm going to lift it up, I want to look for this black triangle right here at the top and use that to lift it. I have to be careful because if I look at it this way, it looks fine. But if I rotate it a bit, I can see that there's air underneath of it. We always want to make sure our shapes are touching and even sunk in just a little bit to make sure that they stay together when printing. Now that I have it where I want it, I can adjust the size, move it around a little bit, and make sure I'm happy with it. Again, always rotate around, make sure that nothing is floating on your keychain or it will not work. I'm going to shrink that down just a little bit so it's not sticking out too high. Take a good look, and everything looks good. Once I'm happy with this, I am ready to download it, and here's where it gets a little different. To download this, I'm going to come up here to my 3 buttons at the top, and I'm going to click Export. On the Export menu, I want to make sure I have chosen everything in the design. If you have something selected, it's going to say Selected Shapes. You want to make sure you have everything in the design selected. We want to download it for 3D printing, and the type of file we want is an STL file. So make sure you click STL. That's going to take a moment. You're going to download it, and then you're going to upload that file into Google Classroom and turn it in.